Welcome to Lotus Pavilion. We hope you have a wonderful time today. On the day of the wedding, my fiancé's younger brother, Chang Ming, arrived to escort the bride to his elder brother's place. He carried a coffin on his shoulders. His elder brother had suddenly contracted a grave illness the day before and passed away. Before his death, he had left a final wish: to share the same bed in life and the same grave in death with his wife. I noticed there wasn't a trace of grief on Chang Ming's face. Just as suspicion stirred in my heart, a series of glowing lines of text suddenly appeared before my eyes. The male lead's move is truly brilliant. Not only can he fake his death to slip away and find the female lead, but he can also trap the female supporting character inside the Marquis's manor to fulfill filial duties for his parents in his stead and support his younger brother. Once the child in the female lead's belly is born, the Marquis's manor can claim it as their heir for the female supporting character to raise, conveniently allowing it to inherit the title later. A chill swept through my entire body, yet I still followed them back to the Marquis's manor. During the wedding vows, I turned toward the crowd. My husband left a dying wish to share the same grave with me, so I have no choice but to obey. With those words, I ordered the coffin to be opened publicly. I wanted to be buried alongside him. Shocked, what is the female supporting character going crazy for? The coffin is empty, yet she's making a whole scene. The guests inside the Marquis's manor burst into an uproar. Every gaze locked onto me. The Lu family members looked even more stunned. Chang Ming reacted on instinct, stepping in front of the coffin. "Sister-in-law, you mustn't. The deceased must be respected above all else. I fear it would disturb my elder brother's spirit in heaven." I pressed a handkerchief to my face, pretending to sob, but cold light gleamed in my eyes. "Since you've already called me sister-in-law, you have no right to stop me. Besides, isn't this exactly your elder brother's dying wish?" I wore an expression of profound grief, so convincing that no one present remained unmoved. Chang Ming was struck speechless. His eyes darted pleadingly toward his parents, but before they could utter a word, I lifted my veil and charged straight at the coffin. No one was prepared. The coffin shifted violently from the impact. The Lu family panicked and rushed forward to pull me away, but I clung to it with all my strength and refused to let go. At the same time, I cursed Lu Chang'an viciously. That beast-hearted scoundrel. He could have died any other day, but no, he just had to die the day before our wedding. If people knew the truth, they'd say he succumbed to a sudden, fatal illness. If they didn't, they'd assume he faked his death to escape the marriage. What unforgivable sin had he committed for heaven to strike him down with such a bizarre disease, killing a perfectly healthy man without a sound? My words reached every ear, dripping with unmistakable mockery. The onlookers could no longer hold back. Whispers spread like wildfire as everyone speculated what strange illness could have taken Chang'an so mysteriously. Madame Lu's face finally cracked. She shot me a dissatisfied glare. "Shen Dao Ning, your words are truly unpleasant. Birth, aging, illness, and death are beyond human control. Chang'an has passed. We understand your grief, but you cannot maliciously speculate about him like this." I had been waiting for exactly those words. Madame Lu speaks wisely. However, there is still one thing I don't understand. Chang'an is dead, yet the Lu family did not hold a funeral. Instead, you carried a coffin to escort me through the gates. Such behavior is unheard of in all of history. Now that I have married into this family, I demand an explanation. What exactly did Chang'an die of? Was a physician summoned before his death? I swept my gaze over Madame Lu from head to toe. Madame Lu lost her son only yesterday, yet today she can dress in fine silks and jewels to receive guests, her face showing not a hint of sorrow. I wonder if Chang'an can truly rest in peace in the underworld. Madame Lu's face flushed red then drained white. She clutched her chest and stumbled backward. What sin has our Lu family committed to marry such a disrespectful, ill-mannered daughter-in-law who knows no propriety? I gave a cold snort and tapped my fingers against the coffin lid. Propriety can wait. I would trouble Marquise Lu and Madame Lu to answer my previous question first, or perhaps summon the physician who treated Chang'an last night so he may testify. Some of the guests began to echo my demand, insisting the Lu family provide an explanation. Marquise Lu's face turned ashen. He shot a meaningful glance at Chang Ming. Chang Ming immediately understood and stepped forward, preparing to use emotion to force me into compromise. The moment he called out, "Sister-in-law," a crisp slap landed squarely on his cheek. I stared at the vivid red mark blooming on his face and spoke in an icy tone. "Don't think that calling me sister-in-law makes me part of the Lu family. If today's matter is not clarified, we will take it to the authorities. The Lu family forced me to marry a dead man and now refuses to let me inquire about my husband's cause of death. Where in the world is such logic? No matter how Chang'an died, this coffin must be opened today." They clearly had not expected me to be so resolute. The Lu family members exchanged uneasy glances, panic flickering in their eyes. Chang Ming, slapped and now thoroughly enraged by my relentless questioning, blurted out, "It's not like I killed my elder brother. Why are you taking your anger out on me?" Madame Lu's heart ached at the grievance in her son's eyes. She screamed that the marriage must be annulled, declaring the Lu family dared not wed such a fierce, shrewish daughter-in-law. The male lead's mother is so tough, the female supporting character must be scared now, right? Even if she is the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister. Once she carries the stigma of a broken engagement, marrying anyone in the future will be harder than reaching the heavens. Don't worry, she won't actually break the engagement. Deep in her heart, she secretly admires the male lead. Otherwise, why would she willingly proceed with the ceremony? The female supporting character had better obediently admit her fault. Otherwise, when things become irreversible, she'll be the one who suffers. Watching the lines of text float endlessly through the air, wave after wave of coldness surged through my chest. The Lu family was clearly thinking the same thing. They wanted to use the threat of annulment to pressure me into backing down. What a colossal mistake. My voice rose even higher than Madame Lu's. The engagement will indeed be broken. But not by any of you. My gaze swept over the stewards who had escorted the bride. They instantly understood and stepped forward. "Smash this coffin open for me." At my command, they swiftly produced the tools they had prepared and struck the lid with heavy blows. The Lu family tried to stop them, but it was too late. The coffin lid shattered and fell away. Gasps of shock rose from the guests. It was empty. There was no corpse inside. The male and female leads are still hiding among the guests. The male lead's face has darkened. He originally planned to watch the female supporting character miserably bow to an empty coffin, but he never expected things to turn out like this. No need to worry. The female supporting character doesn't know anything. Later, they can just make up an excuse that the male lead was buried elsewhere. It's not like she can go dig up a grave. My heart gave a violent thump. My gaze swept rapidly over the crowd. Sure enough, among them I spotted a tall, slender figure that looked exactly like Chang'an. Although he had altered his appearance, those eyes could never deceive me. Beside him stood a delicate young man with slender shoulders and refined features. Clearly a woman disguised as a man. At that moment, the woman was frowning, whispering something to him. Chang'an's usually cold face showed a trace of irritation. He quickly leaned in and comforted her in a low voice. Only then did a smile bloom on her face. "Scum, faking death to escape marriage and even bringing your little lover to watch my humiliation." Rage surged inside me. I turned and ordered the servants to wreck the entire wedding hall. At the same time, I signaled one man to report the matter to the authorities. Marquis Lu indulged his eldest son in faking death to escape marriage and ordered his second son to carry a coffin to wed a bride. Such fraudulent conduct is utterly disgraceful. Everyone present today shall bear witness. I declared loudly. Dao Ning hereby announces that from this day forward, the engagement with Chang'an is annulled. Our ties are severed completely. The sound of shattering porcelain echoed everywhere. The once joyous wedding hall was reduced to utter chaos. Marquis Lu furiously ordered the manor guards to intervene, but it was useless. The men I had brought were elite guards personally selected by my father. Each one possessed extraordinary martial skill. Ordinary manor guards were no match for them. Madame Lu was desperately trying to explain the empty coffin to the guests, fabricating a story that Chang'an had already been buried elsewhere. Everyone looked at her with mocking disbelief. The man I sent to report to the authorities acted swiftly. The moment the Jingzhou prefecture officers arrived, Chang'an realized the situation had turned dangerous and tried to slip away with the woman. The corner of my mouth curled into a cold smile. I pointed straight at his retreating back and shouted, "Chang'an!" He froze instinctively, then quickened his steps to flee. but it was already too late. My men surged forward, seized him on both sides, and forcibly dragged him before me. Chang'an's face was twisted with fury. He opened his mouth to roar, but I reached out and ripped away the mask on his face with one vicious yank. I deliberately left a bright red scratch from my nails across his fair cheek. Ignoring the murmurs of the crowd, Chang'an winced in pain and glared at me with murderous eyes. "Downing, you lunatic." I looked at the untouched half of his handsome face, raised my hand, and delivered another resounding slap. "Am I a lunatic, or are you? Right now, shouldn't you be lying inside that coffin playing dead? Why are you disguising yourself and hiding among the guests? Chang'an, just how much do you hate the Shen family that you would come up with such a humiliating scheme to disgrace me?" A strange light flashed in Chang'an's eyes, but there was not the slightest trace of guilt. I no longer wasted words on him. Turning to the Jingzhou prefect, I said, "Your Excellency, I trouble you to verify his identity and arrest this treacherous scoundrel." The prefect wore an awkward, conflicted expression as he looked toward the Liu family. Marquise Liu and Madame Liu both wore ugly, embarrassed faces, yet they stubbornly insisted. "Last night Chang'an truly fell ill. This was all my idea. It has nothing to do with my parents." Fearing his mother would run out of lies, Chang'an stepped forward and took the blame himself. His reason, however, was laughably absurd. He claimed he had only wanted to test whether I truly wished to marry him. As long as I obediently bowed to the coffin, he would have appeared and explained everything. "Unfortunately, you were too impulsive and reckless, turning things into this mess." Hearing his shameless defense, I couldn't hold back and slapped him again. Chang'an was about to explode with rage when the woman who had been nestled against him earlier was dragged forward by two of my guards. Her eyes were filled with grievance as she looked at Chang'an. Chang'an's heart clenched. He glared at me furiously. "Downing, why are you arresting people at random? Everyone here today is an honored guest of the Liu Manor. Release her at once." I had no interest in continuing the farce. I pointed straight at the woman and asked him, "Since she is an honored guest of the Marquis' manor, you must know her well. Tell me, what is her name? Where does she live? Is she the young master of some house, or the young miss of another, that you would become so furious on her behalf?" Chang'an was momentarily at a loss for words and tried to find an excuse. Before he could speak, I turned to the other guests and asked whether anyone recognized the woman. One sharp-eyed guest caught the implication in my words and stepped forward to examine her closely. "Her skin is so fair and delicate, and her brows and eyes are so gentle. Could she be a woman disguised as a man?" Another person stood up. "Earlier I saw Chang'an in disguise being intimate with this person. Since they appeared to be two men, I even took a few extra glances. These people are so troublesome. Don't they understand what romantic interest means? The female supporting character is going too far. How can she treat our female leads so roughly? If the female lead's identity weren't impossible to reveal publicly, why would she have to hide like this? The male lead should have married her openly long ago." The floating text was full of indignation on the woman's behalf. Yet it also completely exposed her background. It turns out she is a relative of the mastermind behind the shocking Jiangnan salt smuggling case that rocked the court not long ago. The corner of my mouth lifted. A perfect plan instantly formed in my mind. I suddenly struck, knocking the hairpin from her head. Her true identity could no longer be concealed. Her long black hair cascaded down her shoulders. I pretended to be furious beyond measure, grabbed her by the collar, and cursed her as a vixen who had seduced Chang'an, demanding she be taken to the authorities for punishment. The woman whose hairpin had been struck away showed no panic under the crowd's scrutiny. "Downing, do not twist the truth." She stepped forward and confronted me directly, her voice clear and melodious. "Brother Chang'an and I have known each other since childhood. This time I disguised myself as a man only at his request, to test whether you truly wished to marry him. If you were sincere, even if he had died, you would have honored your promise. He would have appeared and fulfilled the marriage. But what about you? The moment you saw the empty coffin, you caused a huge scene at the wedding, falsely accused the Marquis' manor, and showed such a fickle heart. How are you worthy of Brother Chang'an?" The moment those words left her lips, a spark of triumph flashed in Chang'an's eyes. He smoothly continued, "Downing, I originally thought you had deep feelings for me, which is why I devised this plan to test your heart. After all, you are the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister. Although the Lu family is a marquis household, we still feared you were only marrying down because of family pressure. Yet everything you did today, where was even half a portion of sincerity? He took a step forward, his voice full of heart-wrenching pain. Han Yan is my sworn sister. She kindly helped me, yet you humiliated her like this. You demanded the coffin be opened, wrecked the wedding hall, and even reported us to the authorities. All because you felt marrying a dead man would tarnish your noble status. Dao Ning, the person you truly love has never been me. The male lead's counterattack is flawless. He has shifted all the blame onto the female supporting character. Exactly. It was just a test of sincerity. The female supporting character overreacted. The female lead is truly clever. She turned the situation around in an instant. The female supporting character is in trouble now. Sure enough, the guests' expressions changed. Whispers spread. Some even felt Chang An's words made sense and secretly thought I was making a mountain out of a molehill. Marquis Lu and Madame Lu breathed a sigh of relief and quickly chimed in. Exactly. Dao Ning, Chang An had painstaking efforts. Stop causing trouble. I looked at Chang An's deeply affectionate, wronged expression and nearly laughed out loud. A test of sincerity. I gave a cold laugh, walked slowly up to him, and fixed him with a piercing stare. Chang An, if you truly wanted to test my heart, why fake your death? Why have your younger brother carry a coffin to escort the bride and force me to bow to an empty coffin? Is your so-called bitter intention to treat Dao Ning like a clown for the entire capital to laugh at? Only someone with a filthy mind could come up with such a disgusting, humiliating trick. No matter the reason you faked your death, I would never dare marry a beast like you. As I spoke, my gaze swept over the murmuring crowd. Everyone present, if you feel Chang An's actions were not wrong, feel free to marry your own daughters to him. The entire hall fell silent. It was easy to criticize others. Only when the same fate befell oneself did one understand the pain. I turned back to the Lu family with a resolute expression. Chang An, I will not let today's matter go. I will investigate exactly why you faked your death to deceive me. The imperial law does not specify punishment for a man who fakes death to escape marriage, so the Jingzhou prefect cannot arrest you. As for Han Yan, the Lu family's earlier performance had already revealed everything. They had probably prepared a new identity for her. If I continued making a scene, they would have countermeasures ready. It was better to resolve the most pressing issue first. I turned to the steward and ordered him to have the betrothal gifts carried back. Only then did the Lu family realize I was not bluffing. Their faces turned utterly ugly. Chang An, furious beyond reason, blocked my path and continued his wild accusations. Dao Ning, don't be willful. I admit I was somewhat wrong, but I never intended not to marry you. Even though you caused such a scene today, the Lu family is still willing to accept this daughter-in-law. Why must you cling to one matter and refuse to let go? I wanted to slap him again, but he had learned his lesson. The moment I moved, he covered his face and retreated. With so many guests watching, the Lu family could not shamelessly block my departure. Yet watching the priceless betrothal gifts they had just received being carried away again filled their hearts with bitter reluctance. Coupled with my status as the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister, the most noble young miss in the capital besides the princesses and commandery princesses, Marquise Lu, in desperation, threatened that if I walked out of the Lu gates today, I would never have another chance to regret it. Who wants that chance? Only a blind, well-bred young lady would marry a treacherous, sinister scoundrel like you who fakes death at the drop of a hat to toy with people's hearts. Enraged by my scolding, Chang An retorted unwillingly. If you won't marry me, plenty of others will. Don't think Chang An has no one. You're the one who's out of luck. Seeing him rise to the bait, I seized the opportunity. If you're so capable, name someone right now, who is willing to marry you. Name her, and I, Dao Ning, will personally wish you both a lifetime of wedded bliss. Chang An's gaze kept darting toward Han Yan. She looked full of anticipation, and was about to speak when Marquise Lu suddenly cut her off. What a perfect chance to make it public. Why is the male lead's father ruining it? The old man never agreed to let the male lead marry the female lead in the first place. If the female lead didn't have the Jiangnan treasure map as leverage, how could he have agreed to let the male lead fake his death to escape marriage? Exactly, he must be waiting for the female lead to hand over the treasure map before allowing her to officially enter the family. Indeed, the older the fox, the more cunning. I had been disappointed, but those words suddenly caught my attention. While mentally calculating my next move, I no longer had the energy to argue with Chang An. I simply turned and left the Lu Manor, heading back to the Prime Minister's residence with my procession. Along the way, I ordered my men to shout the news at the top of their lungs, making Chang An's fake death marriage deception known throughout the capital. The next day, my father submitted a scathing memorial at court, heavily accusing the Lu father and son. The emperor, who greatly respected his own principal wife, the empress, flew into a rage upon hearing how Marquis Lu had indulged his son in such outrageous and improper conduct. He cursed the old man in front of the entire court until he couldn't even lift his face and ordered the Lu family to go to the Prime Minister's residence to apologize. Chang An had originally been on the verge of promotion into the Grand Secretariat after the wedding. Because of this scandal, his reputation plummeted, the promotion opportunity vanished, and he nearly lost his official post altogether. He raged at home, cursing me as a jinx who ruined people. Marquis Lu urged him to quickly obtain the treasure map. If it's real, our family will enjoy endless wealth for generations. We can even offer some rare treasures to the emperor and secure heavy favor. But if it's fake, we'll lose everything. The Lu family only appeared prosperous on the surface. In reality, their finances had long been depleted. Otherwise, they would never have resorted to having Chang An fake his death, placating Zhu Hanyan on one hand while trying to bind me, the Prime Minister's daughter, on the other. But she was no fool. She insisted on being officially married into the Lu family before handing over the treasure map. To prevent Chang An from casting her aside once she outlived her usefulness, she had hidden the map in the private residence he had arranged for her in the capital, rather than carrying it on her person. After learning everything from the floating text, I secretly sent men to infiltrate that residence. Inside the lining of a painting hanging on the wall, they found the map. Since the woman had been staying at the Lu Manor lately and rarely returned, I seized the chance to copy it and quietly returned the original to its hiding place. The smooth success of all this was thanks to the floating text, which constantly kept me informed of their movements, allowing me to find every opening. At the same time, my father had arranged for people to travel to Jiangnan to gather witnesses and evidence regarding her true identity. Once it was confirmed that she was indeed the daughter of the mastermind behind the Jiangnan case, my father planned to memorialize the emperor about the Lu family's crime of sheltering the daughter of a traitor. I stopped father before he could act and took out the single most critical piece of evidence. When he looked at me in confusion, I smiled and replied, "The Lu family dared to openly forge a new identity for her. They must have anticipated a day like today. Instead of rushing to present everything, why don't we release what we have first and see how they respond?" It would not be too late to deliver the fatal blow once the Lu family and their future daughter-in-law had played all their cards. Just as father and I had predicted, the emperor flew into a thunderous rage and summoned the Lu father and son before him for questioning. They immediately turned the accusations around, claiming that I was harboring resentment over the broken engagement and had deliberately framed her. Father defended me, stating that the evidence must have been fabricated by someone they hired. Since the matter involved many people, the emperor ordered both families to confront each other at the court. When summoned, she stubbornly refused to admit she was the daughter of a criminal, denying every piece of evidence father presented, one by one. What she never expected was that father had successfully located and brought to the capital the wet nurse who had raised her since childhood. The wet nurse had left Jiangnan the year she came of age and thus escaped involvement in the case. At this moment, the older woman grabbed her hand with tears streaming down her face, yet she coldly pretended not to recognize the nurse. Left with no choice, the wet nurse revealed a distinguishing birthmark on her chest as proof. I had expected panic to flash across her face, but she remained eerily calm. At that exact moment, new lines of text appeared, mocking me. The female supporting character still doesn't know that the female lead had the birthmark removed long ago to shed her old identity. Later, the body examination will teach her a lesson. But they were all wrong. The palace mamas who performed the examination didn't only look for something as simple as a birthmark. Years ago, I had studied some medical knowledge under my maternal grandfather. On the day I clashed with her, I accidentally pressed my fingers against her pulse and detected faint signs of a pregnancy, combined with the floating text revealing that she and Chang An had already consummated their relationship. I began to suspect she might truly be pregnant. To verify this, before entering the palace today, I had secretly sent silver to the mamas in charge of body examinations, instructing them to check thoroughly. Sure enough, when the two mamas returned after examining her in the side hall, their expressions were extremely strange. They reported that while there was indeed no birthmark on her body, this unmarried maiden was already with child. Although this matter was not directly related to whether she was the daughter of a trader, they dared not conceal any detail. The moment the mamas finished speaking, Chang An's face turned ice cold. She maintained her composure on the surface, but a flicker of unease appeared in her eyes. Enraged, she accused the mamas of speaking nonsense. The mamas immediately knelt and swore. Whether she is pregnant or not can be confirmed by inviting an imperial physician to take her pulse. Rendered speechless, she did not dare agree. I knew then that her pregnancy was an undeniable fact. I seized the opportunity to suggest that a female physician from the palace examine her pulse. No matter what her identity was, the child in her womb could not have an unclear origin. The emperor approved the request. Even though she was unwilling, she could not refuse in the emperor's presence. When the female physician announced that she was 2 months pregnant, her face instantly turned deathly pale. Calculating the dates, Chang An had still been frequently visiting the prime minister's residence at that time, pretending to be deeply in love with me while secretly entangled with her behind my back. The thought alone made me nauseous. I couldn't help but glance at Chang An. Meeting my bone, chilling gaze, he uncomfortably looked away. I then turned my eyes back to her. She understood better than anyone that if today's matter spread, her reputation would be completely ruined. If she still wanted to become the rightful wife of the Marquis Manor, she could only hope Chang An would immediately step forward and claim responsibility by marrying her on the spot. Sure enough, she was gazing at him with eyes full of expectation, clearly waiting for him to speak up. Yet he remained silent for a long time. Impatience began to surface on her face. I took the chance to speak. Your Majesty, this woman's identity is highly suspicious, and she is already with child before marriage. The child in her belly may also have unclear ties to the criminal. The Liu family has repeatedly shielded her, making it difficult for them to escape punishment. I implore your Majesty to issue a decree to investigate thoroughly. The emperor had already run out of patience. He immediately demanded that she reveal the father of the child in her womb. Her eyes darted around before she fabricated a story that Chang An had been drugged with an aphrodisiac one day and, in desperation, she had sacrificed herself to save him. Before the emperor could ask further, Chang An stepped forward and admitted it. Exactly. At the crucial moment, we still have to rely on the female lead. Why is the male lead as wooden as a block of wood? Watching him makes one anxious. Men can be a bit slow to react, but as long as he follows through properly, it's fine. The best outcome is to take this chance to marry the female lead into the family and avoid future complications. Just like the floating text predicted. Chang An added that since Zhu Hanyan had sacrificed her chastity to save him, he must take responsibility. With that, he knelt and begged the emperor to allow them to marry. As if afraid I would interfere, he even shot me a warning look. Little did he know, I was only too eager for him to wed her as soon as possible. Only then would the Liu family become inextricably tied to the true criminal's daughter. When the truth eventually came to light, they would have nowhere to run. Since her identity as a traitor's daughter could not be proven for the time being, the emperor waved his hand, allowing the Liu father and son to take her home first. As for their marriage, he no longer cared. He merely scolded Chang An for being useless, still thoroughly annoyed by the earlier fake death fiasco. Although the emperor suspected that father and I had deliberately framed the girl and the Liu family, he did not pursue the matter further, merely warning both sides not to cause any more trouble. Father and I exchanged glances, deliberately feigning reluctance and bitter dissatisfaction in front of the two men. Desperate to regain the face they had lost on my wedding day, the Lu family began preparing a grand, ostentatious ceremony for their new bride. The story of the couple quickly spread throughout the capital. Some storytellers even spun it into a romantic tale, praising the woman's noble character for sacrificing her chastity to save another. Gossips inevitably began comparing us, claiming that her actions were the true example all young ladies should follow. I simply pretended not to hear any of it. While the Lu family was busy preparing for the wedding, I secretly led people to the location where the treasure was hidden. From the side, we dug a tunnel and emptied out half of the valuables inside, replacing them with high-quality counterfeits. After some thought, I also commissioned an artisan to paint a majestic 5-clawed golden dragon inside the vault, sprinkled it with gold powder, and then sealed it again with mud. The artisan was a mute I had brought from a foreign country. Before the work began, I had his eyes covered. Once it was finished, he was immediately escorted away. Everyone else involved were death-sworn guards of the Prime Minister's residence. They would never betray me. Once everything was perfectly prepared, Father and I presented another crucial piece of evidence before the Emperor, a ledger recording the enormous profits made from the Jiangnan salt smuggling operation. The numbers were staggering, yet when imperial soldiers had previously searched the criminals' private assets, they had found nothing. It was truly puzzling. Father explained that he had recovered this ledger from a runaway servant. In order to save his own life, the servant had no choice but to reveal a secret no one else knew. The moment the emperor heard the words, "treasure map," a cold glint flashed in his eyes. "There really is such a thing," Father continued. "The reason I insisted on investigating Zhu Hanyan's background was precisely to help your majesty locate this treasure. All of it is money obtained through illegal salt trade by corrupt officials and merchants. It should be returned to the national treasury." The Lu family knew early on that this woman could locate the treasure but chose to conceal it instead of reporting it. Their intentions are clearly selfish. Your Majesty, all you need to do is wait patiently. After the wedding, the Lu family will definitely go dig up the treasure. At that time, we will catch them red-handed. The emperor had always trusted Father. He immediately arranged for secret guards to monitor the Lu family. On the third day after the wedding, Chang'an and his new bride quietly left the manor with a team of guards. The moment they reached the marked location on the map and began digging, the emperor's men descended upon them. Finding themselves completely surrounded, the newlyweds froze in shock. The floating text exploded at that exact moment. What are these soldiers doing here? Are they trying to steal the treasure? I've been too busy watching the male and female leads romance lately. Has anyone been keeping an eye on what the female supporting character is doing? Hidden in the shadows, the corners of my mouth slowly lifted into a smile as I watched them being arrested. When the leading general searched the young woman and found the treasure map on her person, all color instantly drained from both of their faces. For once, Chang'an reacted faster than she did. "This treasure map was prepared as an offering to His Majesty," he shouted. "I was worried it might be a forgery, so I came personally to verify it." The general was far from convinced. He sent men into the hidden vault to investigate, and sure enough, they discovered the hoard inside. A messenger was immediately dispatched to report back to the emperor. A royal decree was quickly issued. The entire treasure was to be excavated and transported to the palace. The young couple was dragged back in custody. Upon hearing the disastrous news, Marquise Lu rushed to the palace in a blind panic. Since Father and I had been the ones to report the matter, we naturally could not be absent. Kneeling before the emperor, Chang'an stubbornly stuck to his fabricated story, with his wife chiming in as his witness. The emperor's expression turned icy. He interrogated her about her true identity, and demanded they reveal exactly how they had obtained the map. The Lu father and son exchanged desperate glances. Knowing they could no longer deny the obvious, they still chose to spin another lie. They claimed that she was a child who had been accidentally swapped at birth into the Jiangnan criminal's family. Supposedly, after growing up and learning her true lineage, she had heroically chosen to remain within the traitor's household for years. All for the sole purpose of securing this treasure map for the crown. Your Majesty, I had no selfish intention of concealing the map. I was merely worried it might be fake, so I had no choice but to come and investigate personally. If I had rashly reported it to your majesty before the matter was clear, I would truly deserve death 10,000 times over. Chang'an spoke with utmost sincerity. Marquis Lu also knelt and kowtowed. The Lu family has been loyal for generations. We would never deceive the emperor. I saw a trace of wavering in the emperor's eyes and immediately stepped forward. Marquis Lu sounds very sincere, yet he did not present the map to your majesty immediately. From the very beginning it shows the Lu family's disloyalty. Their previous evasive explanations regarding Zhu Hanyan's connection to the Jiangnan criminals family are even more treasonous. If everyone acted like Marquis Lu and his son, only showing loyalty after the matter had already blown up, wouldn't everyone be able to deceive the emperor? Father followed up by presenting additional evidence that the Lu family had purchased numerous properties, estates, numerous property, and capital, clearly preparing to seize the treasure and flee the city. The emperor's expression, which had just softened, immediately darkened once more. The Lu father and son looked at each other in utter shock and confusion. Before digging up the treasure, where would the Lu family have gotten the spare money to buy properties? This was simply impossible. But very quickly, they both turned to look at her, suspecting she had used the Lu family's name to make the purchases. Seeing her equally bewildered expression, the emperor immediately misunderstood that the three of them were trying to collude and continue lying on the spot. Enraged, the emperor refused to listen to another word. He directly ordered them to be imprisoned. As Chang'an was being dragged away, his eyes burned with clear hatred as he glared at me. I simply gave him an arrogant smile in return. In the original plot the floating text had once mentioned, I was schemed against by the Lu family and lost my entire life. In the end, after they drained me of all my wealth, they cruelly drove me out of the Marquis' manor. Even father was framed and thrown into prison. While the two of us died miserably, the traitorous couple lived freely and joyfully, squandering the endless treasure. As long as they remained alive in this world for even one more day, I would never find peace. After Chang'an was thrown into prison, I disguised myself and went to see him. His eyes were bloodshot as he questioned me. How did you know about the treasure? Dao Ning, don't get too smug. His Majesty is only temporarily deceived by you and your father. Now that the treasure has been handed over, once a few days pass and His Majesty's anger subsides, he will naturally pardon our Lu family. Seeing that he was still deluding himself, I kindly reminded him. Then what if that treasure is fake? Do you think His Majesty will still calm down? Chang'an immediately roared. That's absolutely impossible. There is only one copy of the treasure map, and Han Yan has always kept it hidden. This was our first time coming here. No one had ever been there before. Something like that could never happen. I smiled without saying another word and turned to leave. Just as expected, when the people in the palace inventoried the treasure, they quickly discovered something wrong. The gold, silver, and jewels were mixed with counterfeits. Not daring to conceal it, they immediately reported to the emperor. The emperor personally came to inspect and ordered a meticulous examination. After removing all the fakes, the remaining genuine treasures were less than 1/10 of what was originally reported. The emperor interrogated the Lu family once again. Remembering my warning the day before, Chang'an immediately tried to bite back, claiming I had tampered with everything. The emperor looked at him as if he were looking at a fool. Last night, Dao Ning was kept by the empress to sleep in the palace. How could she possibly have gone to the prison to meet you? Chang'an was stunned with disbelief. Convinced that he was full of nonsense, the emperor flew into a rage and ordered a thorough investigation of the Lu family. A fallen giant is still a giant. No matter how bad things got, the Lu family still had the betrothal gifts Madame Lu had received and the old Madame's private storeroom to fall back on. However, because of the treasure incident, the investigators concluded that all the valuables in the Lu family had been secretly taken from the hidden vault and brought back to the manor. The Lu family members had no way to defend themselves and could only watch helplessly as their assets were completely stripped away. What caused them even greater despair was when the soldiers guarding the vault continued digging and unexpectedly discovered a dragon vein buried and sealed beneath the mud. The previous emperor had few heirs, and the current emperor was already past 40, yet he only had one prince, A rumor had spread years ago that this was because the dragon vein had been damaged. The emperor had once sent trusted aides to search everywhere for the location of the dragon vein. Who would have thought that after searching for so many years, it had been hidden inside the treasure vault all along? The emperor was both delighted and furious. Delighted because they had finally found the dragon vein. Sincere repairs would surely bring prosperity to the imperial bloodline. Furious because the Lu family had gone to great lengths to conceal it. Seeing the perfect opportunity, father immediately contacted several important ministers. Together, they submitted a joint memorial exposing the Lu family's wolfish ambitions. Not only had they attempted to seize the national treasure, but they were also suspected of damaging the dragon vein. Marquis Lu had always been arrogant and had made many enemies in the past. Now, everyone stepped forward to attack him together, listing every major and minor offense he had ever committed, including the crime of embezzling from the national treasury. Some, eager to earn merit, even dug up old essays Chang An had written, selectively quoting sentences that hinted at rebellious thoughts and presenting them to the emperor. The young woman's identity was once again exposed. Distant relatives of the Lu family, afraid of being implicated, quickly stepped forward to deny any connection to her. She was undoubtedly the daughter of the traitor. With all the crimes listed, the Lu family had no chance of turning the situation around. Completely disappointed, the emperor stripped Marquis Lu of his title and sentenced both him and Chang An to execution by beheading. The remaining male members were sent to the army as penal soldiers, the women were reduced to official courtesans, and the rest were exiled. When the imperial decree arrived, Madame Lu immediately fainted. Chang Ming collapsed in tears, cursing Chang An for ruining him. In the prison, Chang An slumped to the ground, refusing to believe the outcome before his eyes. He kept slamming against the iron bars, shouting his innocence. In a fit of rage, Marquis Lu stepped forward and slapped him hard across the face. "It's all because of you, you unfilial wretch. If you hadn't been bewitched by that woman, how could the Lu family have fallen to this state?" Separated by a wall, Zhu Hanyan heard Marquis Lu's furious roar. Terrified, she curled into the corner, hugging herself tightly. Since she was pregnant, she could not be sent to the entertainment registers and would only be exiled. She had already suffered through one house raid, and had barely escaped the suffering of exile once before. Now, having come full circle, she was filled with endless resentment. Even the floating text showed deep regret. But things had already reached this point, there was no way to change it anymore. The night before Chang Ain's execution, I entered his cell once more and told him that the person who had visited him previously was not me, but my maid wearing a human skin mask disguised as me. "Chang An, this is something you taught me." His eyes filled with hatred and rage. He pointed at me and roared, "Just because I faked my death and refused to marry you, you hate me enough to do this. You destroyed me. You destroyed the entire Lu family. Dao Ning, how can you be so vicious? Han Yan is carrying the flesh and blood of our Lu family in her belly, yet you won't even spare an innocent child." I pulled out the dagger hidden in my sleeve and slashed down, severing the finger he was pointing at me with. Amid his miserable scream, I turned around calmly and left him with one final sentence. "Well, we'll never meet again." After Chang An and his father were beheaded, Madame Lu and Zhu Hanyan were shackled and joined the exile convoy leaving the capital. On the journey, Madame Lu hated the younger woman to the bone. Even though she carried Chang An's child, it could not compare to the pain of losing both her husband and son. She began looking for every opportunity to kill her daughter-in-law. But she was no passive victim either. She struck first, mixing lime into Madame Lu's food. She watched coldly as Madame Lu writhed in agony, her intestines rotting until she vomited blood and died. The young woman herself did not meet a good end. Because of her beauty, she caught the eye of the soldiers escorting the convoy. Several times they attempted to violate her. Refusing to submit, she chose to jump off a cliff during an escape attempt, killing both herself and her unborn child. Before she died, she suddenly looked up at the sky and screamed, "So that's how it is, it was you who betrayed me." The floating text erupted in shock. Who is she talking to? Can she see us? Oh my god, am I reading a sweet farming romance or a horror story? I'm dropping this novel. With her death, the floating text completely vanished. Everything felt like an illusion I had experienced, yet the mountain of real gold and silver before my eyes proved that it had all truly happened. Under father's arrangements, I used the excuse of recuperating from illness to leave the capital. Carrying an unimaginable amount of treasure, I began traveling the world, living a carefree and luxurious life free from worries. To eliminate future troubles, I changed my name and appearance. Many years later, I settled in a small border town near a neighboring country. The town had originally been very poor. Using the wealth I brought, I built houses, schools, and workshops. The people here were simple and kind-hearted. Grateful for everything I had given them, they voluntarily honored me as the town lord. I began guiding the townspeople in trade with neighboring regions, gradually turning the small town into a bustling and prosperous place while providing them with stable income. Later, I recruited soldiers and established my own guard force, governing this corner of the world with order and stability. When father learned of this, he spoke on my behalf at court and obtained a small 7th-rank official position from the emperor as town magistrate. From then on, I rightfully and openly became the true master of this small town. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories.